Hi, everyone. Well, lots of things are happening internationally that we desperately need to be aware of because the United States of America is so interconnected internationally that what is impacting our brothers and sisters afar is also going to slap us right back in the face, especially some of these sanctions that have been implemented to Russia by the Biden administration. And the way I see it, our economy is not getting better. It is getting far worse than anything that we have seen in a very long time. But before I get into this report, just a reminder, check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. If you guys haven't gotten a 401k or a Roth IRA or an IRA backed by gold, silver, and precious metals, it's absolutely the time to do that. In fact, it's getting to that boiling point. But the good news is right now it's still available. And right now they are giving away this 1/10 ounce American Eagle gold coin with any approved plan. But give them a call. They are no hassle. Let them know Lisa Haven sent you and talk to one of their specialists, especially in light of what's going on and especially considering that the Democrats are still in charge. But with that, some of the things that you need to be aware of, and I know most of you are already aware, right now we know that Russia is the third largest oil producer in the entire world. And just to solidify what I'm saying, I like to always take you to the facts here. Here we are at IEA.org, oil markets and the Russia supply. And here's what I've highlighted. Russia is the world's third largest oil producer behind the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. Now, with that point in mind, of course, the war is having an impact on what is going on with our oil supply. Now, what I want to state is this. All the green policies and agendas are what kicked off this entire thing, this oil crisis, this gas crisis that we have been having, and this energy crisis that we have all been having. But the war with Russia was kind of the icing on the cake that made everything go from bad to even worse. And right now, as a result, a lot of our international brothers and sisters afar are really suffering because of this. Take a look here at what I'm talking about. European gas prices skyrocket after Russia shuts off Nord Stream 1. Now, here's the critical part. The reason that Russia shut off a much needed pipeline there to Europe was not because of anything that Europe had technically done, but Russia is blaming this on the West, which is where we come in as a key reasoning here. But take a look at this Forbes article that I found, and here's what it says. Russia says it is stopping critical gas supply to Europe until the West lifts its sanctions. It goes on to state this. Speaking to reporters on Monday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov blamed sanctions as the reason behind maintenance issues that have triggered the pipeline's closure in recent weeks. State-run news agency Interfax reported that Nord Stream 1 is the main gas pipeline connecting Russia and Western Europe. When asked if the gas supplies would resume if the West lifted its sanctions, he stated that, of course, claiming that those curbs have brought the situation to what we now see. It goes on. Prior to its invasion of Ukraine, Russia gas accounted for more than 40% of all gas imports to Europe. Now, point is, over in Europe, they are suffering big time, and directly as a result of the sanctions that the United States is implementing on Russia. That's a very powerful point. And the second powerful point that we need to be aware of is this. We have allowed ourselves to become so interconnected with the international community that what happens over in Europe affects us by design, right? Because we're so interconnected. It'll eventually come back around to the United States of America. With that stated, what's terrifying is the fact that our political decisions are having a direct result on what's going on in Europe. And just to give you an example of how many sanctions and specifically what sanctions we have implemented on Russia, here's what we've done. Take a look here, and this is on seekingalpha.com. Here is a full list of U.S. sanctions leveled against Russia. And here's what it states. Here's the sanctions. On February 24th, they did restricting exports of chips in the middle of a chip crisis, by the way, computers and other high-end technologies to Russia. The second one here, February 27th, key Russian banks are blocked from SWIFT, and sanctions are placed on the central bank's international reserves. On the 28th, oligarchs were targeted with travel bans and asset fees. On March 2nd, U.S. considered barring Russia ships from American ports. They banned an announcement on Russia oil, gas, and energy imports. They moved to strip Russia of its preferential trade status. And on the 24th, the U.S. imposed sanction on dozens of Russia defense companies. And the Duma legislative body on the 5th of April, the Treasury stops the Russian government from paying holders of its sovereign via the dollar reserves it holds in American bank accounts. IRS suspends information exchanges with Russia tax authorities to hinder Moscow's ability to collect taxes. And on the 6th, sanctions unveiled against Putin's adult children. All new investments were banned in Russia, while full blocking sanctions were imposed on Russia's largest banks. So there's just kind of the skim or the top of the iceberg on what's going on with Russia. But what we have to start asking ourselves is, we know, that this war between Russia and Ukraine is extending far beyond your normal time limits, if you will, and it's going on. And if we're imposing all of these sanctions on Russia, are we willing to do that at the cost of hurting our European brothers and sisters? Because now, again, with that article, Russia says that it's sanctioning or stopping critical gas supply to Europe as a direct result of what America is doing. So we have to start rethinking on a scale of what can we change and what can we do to help our European brothers and sisters? Because, again, what happens there will eventually turn around and hit the United States of America, and they are suffering big time. In fact, here's an article on CNBC stating very clearly that things are going to get worse. Here's German gas giant Uniper says the worst is still to come after Russia halts flows to Europe. All right? So what are we going to do? Are we going to continue to make matters worse? Or are we going to let our brothers and sisters afar literally freeze to death, literally? And here's the stupidity of it all, is we have all these radical green leftist agenda, Great Reset, Agenda 2030 masters who are in charge of countries all over the globe, and they're literally crippling gas supply. They're banning our gas supply. They're not building more power plants. Instead, they're focusing on green technology, or that's not even green, really, when you look into it, like solar and wind. Okay, which, by the way, if we were to implement solar, wind, and battery here in the U.S., it would take up 5 states, about the size of North Dakota or South Dakota, one of those 5 full states. We're talking about a full industrialization of the United States of America. That does not sound green to me at all. And this is stuff in which California and other states have had massive issues with, because the power is not reliable. Find me a reliable source and then we'll talk about it. For now, you're implementing these policies, and now you've put entire continents and countries at risk because of you're not wanting to drill in your country, you banning certain imports of oils and gases much needed for your country. People will die without having that kind of stuff. But meanwhile, when I said that what's happening over there is also impacting us here in the U.S., not to mention our green policies, of course, there's already talk of gas going right back on up. And I warned you guys that that would happen as well. Here's WRAL.com. After falling 9 weeks straight, experts say that gas prices may rise again. And here's what it states. AAA on Tuesday reports gas prices are down 15 cents in the last week, but as oil prices rebound, Gas Buddy indicates wholesale gasoline prices have been on the rise. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy, said wholesale gasoline prices have increased as much as 40 cents per gallon. Quote, that means the decline in average prices could wrap up soon, with some price increases possibly as early as this week, especially in areas of the Great Lakes, DeHaan said, while the West Coast and some areas of the Rockies may see prices continue to drift lower. I do believe the national average could tick higher this week, as better than expected jobs report last week likely means less demand destruction than anticipated. And here's another article on it as well. Washington Examiner, gas prices to rise back to $4.35 a gallon, Goldman Sachs forecast. Goldman cited supply shortages and sustained high demand as the primary drivers of the price. Our updated fundamental forecasts point to continued disappointments in supply, with demand instead supported by the still ongoing COVID reopening and gas to oil substitution, he said in the report. This requires demand destruction on top of the ongoing economic slowdown, requiring high retail fuel prices to end the market deficit. The uptick would reverse trends from the last 6 weeks when prices at the pump began to fall for the first time following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But keep in mind, they were all going up prior to that. In June, gas prices reached an all-time high of more than $5 a gallon due to the stark imbalance between supply and demand. And of course, we also have this on CNN Business. U.S. natural gas prices spike to 14-year high. That's a massive, massive uptick. And keep in mind, Joe Biden is obviously adding to that. He's taken from our reserves and then given them away. Joe Biden reportedly exports 5 million barrels of our reserves despite U.S. gas prices. And that kind of thing is still going on with the Biden administration. That's why I said it's very important to focus on what's going on. The battle is not over for high energy prices, for high inflation prices, for high gas prices. I believe it has only just begun. And as long as we have Democrats running things, it has only just begun, because they all campaign on how green they're going to go. They all campaign on sending, or right now they're all sending over our much needed money to Ukraine rather than keeping it here in the United States of America. We have a deficit. We have trillions of dollars in debt. We don't have money to send anywhere. We have to start taking care of us here in the United States of America. And as long as we have a president who cares about nothing but going after MAGA supporters, then we're obviously never going to fix the issues. And mark my words, he is blaming all of these problems on you if you're a Trump supporter, a Christian, or a conservative, kind of just like Hitler did in the past with the Jews, how he blamed all the problems on the Jews. But these suicide sanctions, so to speak, which is a term that was stated originally by Steve Quayle. By the way, get to stevequayle.com. Check out his stuff. He's got great stuff. I get no money or anything from telling you that. He's just got great information and great books. And by the way, he's doing this really awesome, the Egyptian and alien connections in the Americas, where he goes through and gets some architectural digs. You guys are going to want to check that out. He's got tickets that he's selling to that as well. But anyhow, there are lots of things happening. These suicide sanctions, as they're called, or been dubbed by Quayle there, these are they designed to take out Europe and America by design? Well, ultimately, I'll let you decide. But with that, please don't forget to get on over to restrictedrepublic.com. Right now, I am still offering a stellar deal of $50 for an entire year plan, $50 for life, however long you decide to keep it. You pay $50 a year. Use the coupon code 50forever, or forever 50, forever, and then the number 50. But we've got inside information. I'm going to be putting out huge reports today about the vid that you guys are going to want to see as well. So get to restrictedrepublic.com and don't forget, use the coupon code forever50 on the annual subscription. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven signing out.